Picture this. A flatbed truck pulls up to an empty lot. Nothing there yet. 3 hours later, there's a fully formed house sitting on the foundation. Walls up, roof locked in place. Not 3 months, 3 hours. That sentence sounds like marketing fluff, I get it. But it's real, and it's not a gimmick. It's origami engineering applied to housing. A home that folds down flat for shipping and unfolds into a livable structure on site. Today, we're spending real time on this, how it physically works, why this technology is showing up exactly when the construction industry needs it most, where it genuinely still struggles, and where I think this whole category ends up in 5 years. Settle in, this is a longer one. Quick pause before we go deeper. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, subscribe to Elite Prefab Homes. That's genuinely what keeps this channel making videos like this one. Let's start with the why now. Because this technology didn't appear in a vacuum. The construction industry is short, roughly 250,000 workers every month, with some estimates putting peak shortages closer to 400,000. That gap doesn't just slow things down, it reshapes what's even possible to build. Labor shortages are tacking nearly 2 extra months onto average build timelines. And the combined economic drag from those delays runs into the billions annually. Add in material costs that have climbed more than 40% since the pandemic, and you've got a country sitting on an estimated shortfall of around 4 million homes. That's not a dip in supply. That's a structural failure of the traditional building model to keep pace with demand. My honest opinion, you cannot hire your way out of a 250,000 person labor gap. That math doesn't work, no matter how much money gets thrown at recruiting. What actually closes that gap is removing labor from the equation as much as possible. Building indoors, on a repeatable line, with fewer hands needed per unit. That's the entire premise behind folding construction. Here's something worth clearing up. The idea of prefabrication isn't new at all. Mail-order kit homes go back over 100 years, and portable structures have existed in military and industrial contexts for decades. What's actually new is the folding mechanism itself. Modern hydraulics, high-performance insulated panels, and precision factory automation finally allow an entire code-compliant living space to compress down to standard truck dimensions, and then expand back into something that doesn't feel like a converted shipping container. My take? The concept was never the hard part. Getting the engineering precise enough to fold and unfold a structurally sound wall system, over and over, without failure. That's the actual breakthrough. It took modern materials science to make an old idea finally work well. Let's get into how this genuinely works, step by step, because it's the most satisfying part to explain. Everything gets built indoors first. Framing, insulation panels, plumbing rough-ins, electrical runs, all assembled under a factory roof, away from weather and away from the sequencing delays of a traditional job site. Once complete, the entire structure folds flat and loads onto a standard flatbed truck. No special oversized load permitting in most cases. On arrival, hydraulic systems do the heavy lifting. Walls lift into vertical position. The roof structure rises and locks into place. Within a handful of hours, you've got a fully enclosed shell sitting on a prepped foundation, ready for final utility connections. My favorite detail in this whole process? Weather stops being a variable entirely. No rain delay pushing your timeline back 2 weeks. No frozen ground halting your foundation pour. A factory floor operates identically in February and in July. That predictability alone eliminates one of the biggest, most frustrating cost overruns in traditional construction. I get asked this constantly. Doesn't folding compromise structural integrity? Short answer, no. And here's why that's true. These structures typically rely on structural insulated panels, along with steel and reinforced concrete composite elements, engineered specifically to handle repeated folding and unfolding without weakening the structure once it's locked into its final shape. The insulation sits built into the panel itself, rather than stuffed into a cavity afterward, which usually creates a tighter building envelope than a lot of standard stick-built construction ever achieves. Honestly, I was skeptical the first time I watched one of these unfold in person. It looked almost too effortless to be structurally serious. But once it's locked into place, the wall assembly holds up comparably to a well-executed SIPS home. Solid, well-insulated, not the flimsy tin box feeling people assume going in. Quick clarification, because this trips people up constantly. Prefab gets used as one giant catch-all term, and it's really not one category. Manufactured homes are built fully off-site to a federal HUD code and remain on a permanent chassis. Modular homes are also built off-site, but to local building codes, and they get set permanently on a foundation, a distinction that seriously matters for financing and insurance. Panelized construction ships flat panels that still require an on-site crew to assemble. And folding homes are their own category entirely, a fully assembled structure that compresses for transport and expands on-site with minimal additional labor. Here's the mistake I see people make over and over: assuming every prefab option gets financed, insured, and appraised identically. It doesn't. Find out exactly which legal category your model falls into before you fall in love with a floor plan, because it directly affects your mortgage options down the line. Let's compare this honestly against a traditional build, because I don't want this turning into a sales pitch. A traditional home involves a sequence of subcontractors, one waiting on the next: framers, then electricians, then plumbers, then drywall. Every gap in that sequence is wasted time, and every delay compounds into the next trade schedule. A factory-built module largely skips that sequencing problem. Multiple trades can work on different sections of the same structure simultaneously, indoors, on a repeatable production line. It's the exact same logic that pushed automobile manufacturing toward assembly lines over a century ago. Parallel. Repeated work consistently beats a single crew doing everything in strict order. And because the same design gets repeated over and over, quality control tightens up too. You're no longer relying on one particular crew's skill level for every single home. You're relying on a refined, repeated process. Let's get real about the numbers, because too many videos on this topic gloss right past this part. The advertised factory price, that headline number everyone quotes, covers the structure itself. That's it. On top of that, you're paying for foundation work, which varies enormously depending on soil and site conditions. You're paying for delivery, which scales with distance from the factory. You're paying to tie into water, sewer, and electrical service. And you're paying local permitting fees that vary county to county. Realistically, budget for an additional 30 to 50% on top of that advertised base price to land a genuinely turnkey home. Ask every manufacturer for their turnkey estimate, never just their factory price. That single question is the difference between an accurate budget and a very unpleasant surprise. I'd be doing you a disservice if I hyped this up for 20 straight minutes without pushback. So here's where it genuinely still struggles. First, transportation constraints. A folded module's dimensions are capped by standard truck size and road weight limits. That sets a real ceiling on how large a single unit can be before you're connecting multiple modules together, which reintroduces cost and complexity right back into the process. Second, availability. This technology is still scaling. Factories are still ramping automated equipment, which means wait lists, limited state-by-state availability, and pricing that hasn't fully settled. Order this month, move in next month is not a realistic expectation right now. Third, and I'll say it again because it's the most common regret I hear, people treat the advertised base price as the whole story. It never is. Fourth, and under-discussed, resale and appraisal uncertainty. Since this category is still relatively young, some local appraisers and lenders don't have a deep comp history for these homes yet. That can complicate both financing and future resale value until the category matures. Here's what genuinely convinces me this isn't a passing trend. The leading companies in this space aren't staying parked in the single-studio lane. We're seeing real expansion into multi-bedroom, multi-module layouts built for actual families, along with serious capital investment into automated manufacturing equipment, specifically aimed at cutting labor costs per unit. There's real financial infrastructure forming around this too. One major player in folding construction recently moved through a formal SEC registration process, tied to a public merger. That's not a garage project anymore. That's a company positioning itself for institutional capital and serious manufacturing scale. My honest take? The single studio unit was the proof of concept. It proved the folding mechanism actually works reliably. The real test now is whether this manufacturing approach scales into genuine 3- and 4-bedroom family homes without losing the speed and cost edge that made it interesting in the first place. If that happens, this stops being a niche product and becomes a genuine dent in the national housing shortfall. Worth a quick mention: factory construction produces dramatically less job site waste than traditional building. Materials get cut and used with far more precision on a repeatable production line, instead of being over-ordered and estimated per individual site. Less material hauled to a landfill, less excess product sitting exposed to weather and ruined before it's even installed. It's not the headline reason people choose these homes, but it's a real, tangible side benefit of the manufacturing efficiency. Even if you never buy a folding home, there's a layout lesson here worth applying to any small footprint project. Zone design. Clearly defined areas for sleeping, cooking, and living, with essentially zero wasted hallway space. That discipline is the actual reason these compact footprints feel livable instead of cramped. The mistake I see constantly in small home design, prefab or not, trying to force big house furniture into a small house footprint. A king bed and a full dining set do not belong in 400 square feet, no matter how clever the floor plan is. Multifunctional furniture, a day bed doubling as seating, a table that folds flat against the wall. That's the actual difference between compact living, feeling comfortable, versus feeling like a daily compromise. Let's be practical for a second. If you need an ADU, a backyard studio, a guest house, or a fast deploy rental unit, this is a genuinely strong option today. Right now, no asterisks. If you're a first-time buyer looking for a starter home, and you've got patience for a still developing category, it's absolutely worth serious consideration compared to typical starter home pricing in most markets. Who should wait a bit? Anyone needing a large, highly customized, multi-generational home immediately. The bigger multi-module layouts are still scaling. Waitlists are real, and financing infrastructure is still catching up. That's not a permanent no, it's a timing question. So, is the 3-hour house going to fully replace traditional construction? No, not entirely, not soon. Highly custom, large-scale, deeply individual homes still need a traditional build, at least for now. But for starter homes, ADUs, guest houses, and fast deploy family housing, this is a genuine solution to a genuine crisis, not a gimmick dressed up for a thumbnail. The labor shortage isn't fixing itself anytime soon, and factory-built, folding construction is one of the only approaches actually attacking the root of the problem instead of working around its edges. If this was useful, that's exactly what Elite Prefab Homes is here for. Subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown, because we've got individual companies and models coming up next. Would you actually live in a home that unfolded in 3 hours? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.